Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I will show you how to draft a simple and stylish short pant pattern using your own body measurement. Now let's get into it. The first thing I'll be doing is to draw a vertical line of 3 inches and also an horizontal line of 3 inches. That is because I'll be using this paper to draft both front and back patterns together. Now I'm marking an horizontal line of 3 inches. Then I'll connect that together into a straight line. This will serve as our guideline. So vertically I'm marking another 3 inches. Then I'll connect it together to form a straight line too. The next thing I will do is to input my crotch measurements. And to get your crotch measurements, you'll be using your hip measurements divided by 4. So the hip measurement I'm using for this is 40 inches. Divided by 4, I'll have 10 inches. So I'm going to be marking 10 inches here. So the depth I'm using is 10 inches depth. I'll also mark the length and input 10 inches. So that will be my crotch line. So what I have here is 10 by 10. That's your hip divided by 4. Then I connected it into a straight line. The next thing is to input your waist to hip measurement if you measure that, but if you did not, just come up by 2 inches from your crotch measurement. Then I'll connect that together. Now I will input my short length. That is the desired length of your shirt. Here I'm using a length of 18 inches. So I'll mark out the 18 inches. Connect that on the straight line. To get your crotch extension, for front, you're going to divide your hip by 20 inches. So the hip I'm using here is 40 inches. Divided by 20 inches, I'm going to have 2. So that is going to be 2 inches. So my crotch extension is 2 inches. I will input that. And mark it out. Then on your hip line, they're going to come out by 1/4 of an inch. Then connect that to your crotch extension. After connecting it, the next thing is to measure our crotch length. That is on that crotch line. You're going to measure it from the crotch extension to the other end. Here I have 12 1/4. I'm going to divide it by 2 and use it to mark the center. I will input the same measurement at the M line, that is where we measure the length of the shirt. Then connect that together on a straight line. Then on that line, I'm going to input my thigh measurement. The thigh measurement I'm using here is 22 inches. So I have 5.5 on both sides. I'm going to be dividing that by 4 and input on both sides. When I say by 4, our thigh measurement is 22 inches. For the front, I'm going to have 11 inches. So that 11 is what I will divide by 2. That will be on both sides. So on both sides, I'm going to be having 5.5, 5.5. 5.5 on the right side and 5.5 on the left side. Then I'll connect that to the hip and also to the crotch line. Then on the waistline, if it's going to be with a fitted band, you're going to measure out your waist. So here I'm using a waist of 32 inches. Divided by 4, I have 8 inches. So I inputted 8 inches here. Then added 1 inch allowance for the darts I'm going to be adding. I'm going to measure what I have there and divide it by 2 to mark my dart point. Then for your front dart, the length of the front dart is going to be 4 inches. You mark that out and connect it together. Then on both sides on the waistline, you're going to measure half an inch to the right and half an inch to the left. Then connect it together to your dart leg. If yours is going to be with elastic, you don't need to hold your dart at all. So the next thing is to come down by half an inch at the center and come up by half an inch at the side. Then connect this together for shaping. So I closed my darts to connect that together. And these are our front pattern. So now I'm going to mark out the band. I'm removing a band of 1.5 inch from this pant trouser. Then I'll connect that together too. And these are front pattern ready. I'll be using the same front pattern to draft out the back pattern. You need your front pattern to draft out your back pattern. So to know the difference, I'm going to be using a red marker to draft out my back pattern. After drafting, I'll use a tracing wheel to trace it out. So now on the crotch line, I'm going to go in by 1 inch for my back pattern. And on the waistline, I'm going to go in by 1.5 inch. Then connect it together. I'm going to be extending that line by 2 inches for my back pattern. I usually use whatever I use as my crotch extension to extend that line. Then I'll input my hip line from that newly marked line for my back pattern. So I'm going to measure 10 inches, which is the hip, and add it back to the hip line also. Then for the crotch extension for the back, we're going to be dividing our hip by 10 inches. So 40 divided by 10 is going to give me 4. So our back crotch extension is 4 inches. So from that red line, I'm going to measure out 4 inches. Then connect it together with the crotch line. At the hip line, I'm going to come out by a quarter of an inch. Then connect my crotch together for the back pattern. What we are drafting now is the back pattern. That's why I'm using a red marker. Then I'm going to measure out my waistline for the back, which is 8 inches plus 1 inch for that, and I'm going to have 9 inches. Then also come up by half an inch from the waistline and connect it together. Then from the waistline, connect it to the hip line that we already marked earlier. On both sides of the hem of the pants, you're going to measure out half an inch for your back pattern. Then connect it accordingly. You connect this to the crotch length. And you connect the other one to the hip line. Now these are our back pattern. Now I also mark out the dart for the back pattern if it is a fitted band. But if it is not a fitted band, we are going to have elastic at the back of your pattern. You don't need to mark out the dart for the back. But if it's fitted, you're going to be marking out your dart. So I'm going to mark out darts here for the illustration purpose. The dart length for back is 5 inches. I'll mark that out. Then mark half an inch on both sides and connect it to the dart leg. Then we mark out our band here, a band of 1.5 inch, and connect it together. I'm going to label it. That's our center back. Then the side back for the band. I'll do the same thing for the front pattern too. The center front and the side front. That's for our band. Then I'm going to be using the tracing wheel to trace it out to separate the back pattern from the front pattern. So I'm going to place another paper under this particular paper, then use the tracing wheel to separate it. If it's the back I want separate or the front I want to cut out, I'll use it to trace it, just like according to the name. I'm going to use it to trace the pattern. So I can have two separate patterns, one for the front and one for the back. And that's it, guys. Let me know in the comment section which method do you prefer, to use freehand for your short pattern or to draft your pattern out. And if you haven't tried pattern drafting, try this method first and let's know which one you prefer. And that's it, guys. If you found this helpful, don't forget to drop a comment, like, and subscribe to this channel. See you next time.